And me see Tyra lay down there. And me ask, see Tyra, what she do there? See Tyra, I saw she made good wine like a Buxton good. See Tyra, oh man there, oh see Tyra, oh man there. See Tyra, oh man there, oh see Tyra, oh man there. Sunday morning I was passing, and me see Tyra lay down there. And me ask, see Tyra, what she do there? See Tyra, I saw she made the good wine like a Buxton good. See Tyra, oh man there, oh see Tyra, oh man there. See Tyra, oh man there, oh see Tyra, oh man there. Shake, 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 Tyra, shake, 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 Tyra, shake, 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 Tyra, oh. One day me been a wakana, and me see Tyra pon the dam, and me ask see Tyra what she do there. See Tyra, I some she petticoat wine like a Buxton coat. See Tyra, mo man there, oh see Tyra, mo man there. See Tyra, mo man there, oh see Tyra, mo man there. One day me been a wakana, and me see Tyra on the down, and me ask see Tyra what she do there. See Tyra, I saw she very good, but like a Buxton good. See Tyra, mo man there, oh see Tyra, mo man there. See Tyra, mo man there, oh see Tyra, mo man there. See Tyra, mo man there, oh see Tyra, mo man there. See Tyra, mo man there, oh see Tyra, mo. Shake, 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 Tyra, shake, 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 Tyra, shake, 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 Tyra, oh. One day me been a bamboo down, and me see Tyra lay down there, and me ask see Tyra what she do there. See Tyra, I up she penny good wine like a Buxton good. See Tyra, mo man there, oh see Tyra, mo man there. See Tyra, mo man there, oh see Tyra, mo man there. Sunday morning I was passing, and me see Tyra lay down there, and me ask see Tyra what she do there. See Tyra, I saw she made the good wine like a Buxton good. See Tyra, mo man there, oh see Tyra, mo man there. See Tyra, mo man there, oh see Tyra.
All right, sorry about that. We just had a slight hiccup, but we are up and we are running. As you can see there on the screen, the protest, according to the folks on the ground, the protest is still on for tomorrow, 10 a.m. That's 10 o'clock in the morning. And you see all the information there. right there on the screen, and it should be very healthy. It should be very productive because folks in the community need their concerns to be addressed, and rightly so. We're going to touch on a few things shortly, but this here, I want you guys to see this here. And let me bring the attorney on who has taken time out of her busy schedule to be with us this evening. Um, in about 10 minutes or so, we will be joined by Dr. David Hinds. He's going to be with us as well. And we thank you guys in advance for sharing the link because we need as much people watching and listening as possible, especially on social media. So thank you much for sharing the link. Now, this photograph that you're seeing here, this still footage, you see that guy in that eggshell, that kind of, as you say in Guyana, beige kind of suit. They're all surrounding one little rascal in the middle. That rascal in the middle is Robeson Benn. This area is not Buxton. It is not Golden Grove. It is not Agricola or those so-called hotspot places as the PPP would like to describe. This is Mon Repos, mind you, Mon Repos and not Mon Repose. The S is silent. Gosh, I've become an English teacher. Never thought that this day would have happened. But it's Mon Repos, right? Mon Repos. This is what's happening in Mon Repos. Robeson Benn went there to sweet talk the people, to talk nicely to them. Human beings in Mon Repos, all human beings, right? The only set, according to the PPP hooligans, are people who are persons of African descent standing up and fighting against injustices and so forth. The PPP usually they describe them as hooligans. Now, these folks, this is Robeson Benn in Mon Repos. All those stalls and those things on the road set by the folks in Mon Repos. So let's not beat around the bush. Let's stop beating around the bush. It's just not going to happen. This is how they treated Robeson Benn. I want you guys to see. Bottle spoon. Take a look. No, I mean, look, this is not the National Cultural Center or anything. That's actually Mon Repos. Let's bring in the lawyer, attorney at law, Shallon Washington. Miss Washington, good evening. How are you?
Hi, good evening, Mark, and thank you for having me tonight. And good evening to all of your listeners out there, your fans who are listening to the show tonight.
The listeners, indeed. Good evening to them. Yes, that what you just saw there is the man who sits there as Minister of Home Affairs. He visited Mon Repos. He wasn't visiting the people who were crying out for justice in Golden Grove. He didn't visit the relatives, and this is probably recently he did some other stuff. But for the 2+ weeks, the people who were crying out for justice, he never gave a damn. He didn't give a damn. So a few stalls were broken down, some self-inflicted, we are hearing, and the evidence is there, self-inflicted. He rushed over to Mon Repos, thinking that the people are going to embrace him, throw malap on him, hug him, kiss him, give him pulori or whatever to eat, because pulori right now in Guyana is very expensive. But they didn't treat him the way that he expected. Again, let me show you the video and others who are watching and listening, how they treated Robeson Benn in Mon Repos. All right, you saw that for yourself, right? This is no propaganda, not at all. This is not propaganda. Your take on how they have treated Robeson Benn and whether you're surprised or not.
Frankly, I'm not surprised. It looks like he's not welcome there, and I'm not sure why would he be visiting Mon Repos when there's other more important matters for him to attend and to address in the nation. I'm not surprised that they're trying to get him out, but I'm not understanding why is he even there. And most importantly, I guess the people are frustrated, so he's not welcome there. Not surprising to me.
Yeah, not surprising. These guys don't know when they're basically not welcome. Look, I don't know if you saw, there was a video clip when Jagdev told this guy who disguises himself as a bishop, told him to just shut up, Egil, shut up. Come on. I'm not going to allow anybody to speak to me like that. Shut up. He told Egil publicly, we saw it on tape, shut up. Now here's Robeson Benn going into Monrepo, and bottles and probably gunshots, I don't know. And the police were right there. They couldn't do anything to the people who were protesting, or they were agitated for whatever reason out in Monrepo. They couldn't do anything at all. Are you seeing the hypocrisy? How they treat one set of people compared to what we just saw there? Please.
Right. The police is hardly doing anything. I don't see any actions being taken against those people. And I'm not sure what would be the reason for those people's frustration. Like you said, maybe there was some sort of self-inflicted destruction of property, but I'm not sure how Monrepo is affected by what's happening in the country right now in terms of the people protesting over Quinton Baca's killing.
Because a few stalls were broken down, and nobody's condoning that. Whenever there's a protest, I find it to be very suspicious, because I saw another video where residents of Monrepo were yelling out to throw all manner of things and fuel and all these things they were saying, and in order to burn places down or whatever. I heard that. Right, all buses and people inflicted their own destruction on their stalls and these things just to get a compensation. It happened. Now, two wrongs don't make a right. They're calling people criminals and hooligans, but we have seen these things on videos, and the regime, the PPP guys, them refuse to condemn these violent acts in predominantly PPP stronghold areas. Again, the hypocrisy, attorney.
Right. I think it should be, if it's wrong, it should be condemned on both levels. It cannot be that you have double standards, one standard for your supporters and the next for, people who doesn't support your politics. I think that's wrong. If you represent the nation, you represent all people. And if there's any action that you believe is being done that it's unacceptable or it's wrong, then, they need to speak out against both sides.
And they're not speaking out against both sides. In fact, they are condemning. In fact, they're insulting the other side. And we are seeing evidence of this. Robeson Benn again. Just imagine. I want you and our listeners to just imagine if this had happened in Buxton or any place looking people, predominantly African Guyanese, anywhere this had happened, the police would have opened fire. Robeson Benn would have called an immediate press conference to condemn everyone and call them hooligans and criminals and all manner of things. But he took his little bricks, he took his bottles and probably gunshots in the air. I don't know, but he took his licks and he ran away like a little poodle. Look at those guys trying to shield him. The guy that is shielding him there with that beige, that egg-like suit is the head of CANU, the Drug Enforcement Agency in Guyana. CANU. God in heaven knows, why the heck is CANU boss on the sea? I don't know, but let's look. What's happening? All right, we take a look at that, but I want you and our listeners to see when Irfan Ali was in Buxton, some of his goons escorted him to Buxton, but it looks as though these things will only happen for now until these vagabonds in the PPP continue to provoke people, and they are. I want you guys to read my lips. They are provoking people, and they must stop this provocation. This is how Irfan Ali was treated in Buxton compared to how Benn and others were treated in Monrepo.
You will be fully conducted. Mr. Watts, he is armed himself shots. Shots, tear gas. Light round. Also, I can see that.
But I just take my question there. No, you come on the East Coast.
You listen to me.
Right? No, you come on the East Coast.
You listen to me now.
You gotta listen to me too, man.
I am listening to
Right? Now, I see you on the East Coast. The day when they get a protest of them, the next day, that's when you see one bigger earth come up to talk to my family. Right? And that's bad. If we didn't do in a protest, you want to see nobody for justice. You see? I'm not holding back nothing. I'm not holding back nothing. I just need justice for my family.
Who is that joker? That piece of plum. They know who to deliver to.
So you heard that was Irfan Ali in Buxton and how he was treated in Buxton and how he was brave enough to call a leader of Buxton, Dr. David Hinds, a joker. All David Hinds was asking, in case you didn't hear carefully or others, is that you guys have an esteemed visitor here today. And that angered Irfan Ali. Probably doesn't know what the meaning of esteem, right? Can understand. He probably think they were talking about steam, fish or steam, something, esteem. And so he got angry and asked, who is this joker here? Then he said to one of those youngsters from Buxton, he don't know who he dealing with, you know. He don't know who he dealing with. Looking in as to what's going on in Guyana. How does that make you feel, especially that sort of rhetoric and response and message coming from someone who sits there in the highest seat of office, albeit under questionable circumstances? How does that make you feel as a Guyanese looking in?
To some extent, it makes me feel a little bit, I feel for the people in Guyana and I do stand with them. But to some extent, I'm a little bit relieved that I don't have to deal with that level of ignorance, because as a president representing the people of that country and going into Buxton and having that type of response and that type of attitude, I think is very disrespectful on many levels. But you know, to some extent, we really can't blame him. The Guyanese people are the people. Well, I don't know that they put him, but he's there. He's there in power. And he has the authority to act on Guyanese people's behalf. So, I don't know who we should blame for having a president of this level that doesn't understand and, can't comprehend certain things. Because, the people in Buxton really treated him well compared to how Robeson was treated in Monrepo. There was no insulting of him or throwing things at him. I pretty much saw he had a huge presence of police officer there. He was well protected anyway. And the people were just trying to interact with him. If he had only learned how to listen and to deal with the issues that are affecting the people, I think everything would have been fine. But that level of disrespect, I don't think we shouldn't entertain it. We shouldn't allow it coming from the highest, position in the country, from the president.
Good. And we have seen the civilized behavior of those folks in Buxton, how they, even under that sort of situation where they feel injustice has been meted out to them and they are trying to correct that. He didn't. He insulted the people of Buxton and other areas around Buxton, all the protesters. He insulted them, but yet they treated him in a very humane manner. Maybe that should not have been the case, but they did that. Unlike Now, the very people that treated him like a human being are the people that they are condemning. He and his goons, especially those in the private sector commission, are condemning the people and his friends in the media, calling them criminals, hooligans, and all manner of things, hungry belly dogs, you name it. And look how they treated him compared to how Robeson Benn was treated in Monrepo. Robeson Benn and others were treated in Monrepo, an area that they glorified, that only civilized people live in places like Monrepo, right? And this is how the civilized people in Monrepo treated Robeson Benn and others. I'll show that again. Surely they can't say it was the Buxtonians or the people from Golden Grove or protesters who came into Monrepo and did that. They can't say that at all, attorney. They just can't say that, right?
They just can't. It's just a double standard that kind of makes me a little bit angry at the way, our people are treated in our communities versus people who are supporting the PPP regime. It's really sad and it's really pathetic that our government would have this type of response against one group versus the other. Like, look at the way Robeson was treated and compared to the way the president was treated. And yet, out of the mouth of our own president would be, such type of language or description of the people from Buxton or, those places that they're protesting in. It's very unfortunate. Those people should well be able to express their feelings or express how they feel by protesting what was wrongfully done to Quinton Bacchus. It was wrong. So I agree with them. Yes, and I stand with them in their protest and the outcry for justice for what was done. And the government need to ensure that justice is properly done and served in this situation.
They're not concerned about justice at all. They're concerned about ensuring that they continue with their corruption. So they rush into Monrepo and they compensated somebody for some old bus that beat up, got some old license plate with nothing inside other than probably a foul pen. They were mining fouls in that bus. They got about $2-3 million for it. A Puri lady, a Dalpuri or a Polari lady got hundreds of thousands of dollars for a small case that she claimed the protesters broke up, right? And now I'm not saying that protesters or anybody protesting have any right to be disruptive towards others, right? I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that there's also evidence that the people did a bunch of stuff when they heard that, oh, them a come. In other words, we know what they mean by, right, a phrase, Osman. We know what they mean by, hey, them a come. Look, them a come. And action started. So we don't know for certain or for sure whether the people, the protesters, were the ones who basically just went into Monrepo. And I question that. To just say that they're going to go there and broke up stuff. I question that. That is highly impossible because they've passed other villages all the way from Golden Grove. Nothing happened. And you tell me just like that they're reaching Monrepo and the guys decide that they're going to run away with watermelon. They're going to run away with one-side shoes. All the guys, mind you, not just one particular group. Look at who's marching here now. Look, everybody, look at the guy with the shoes in his hand. Look at the guy in front. Look, them two guys with little dry up potato, dry up plantain, and so forth and so on, right? And those are the things, oh, this is wrong. Look what them do to Abby. Them a target Abby. But nobody, I'm not saying anybody should be targeted as a result of their ethnic persuasion or their political affiliation. No, that is uncalled for, right? But I'm not saying that this is the case, but nobody is looking at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is these people have been crying for 2 weeks for justice for a young man who was murdered by a member of the police force. So nobody not care about that no more. Them only care about Polari and potato chips and egg balls, and to hell with the life of that young man that was snuffed out by members of the Guyana police force. To hell, that is how insensitive they are. Polari more important. And Air Finale is the chief cook and bottle washer for that because they had millions of dollars sent to them in a car trunk, allegedly by a drug lord or a money launderer, to compensate the people of Monrepo right away. but no compensation for the people that the police broke up their shops, broke up their drinks bottle, all manner of things they did, shut up people in the village out there. No compensation for them, nothing for them at all. In other words, to hell with you guys. Only persons of Indian descent deserve monetary compensation. But persons of African descent deserve insults. Call them hooligans, criminals, hungry belly, you name it, call them all manner of things. And then the next day, they expect to go into Buxton to talk about development. I don't know, attorney, I've been talking for too long. Go ahead.
I mean, if this doesn't anger the people of Guyana or incite them to anger, I don't know what else would, because it's kind of disturbing that people would allege that they suffer damages as a result of protests. There was no investigation done. I didn't hear anything about an investigation being conducted to determine if people actually suffered the type of losses that they were claiming, or whether or not it was self-inflicted. But we do know that Quindam Bacchus' life was wrongfully taken. We do know that the people in Buxton were protesting. We do know that those people did actually suffer losses as a result of the actions of the police. We do know that those are factual. We don't even need an investigation to determine those facts. And we do know that they were not compensated. Nothing was done to protect them, or to, even say, well, we understand that you guys were wrongfully, you wrongfully suffered some type of injury to your goods or your person. So let the government do something to compensate. Nothing of the sort. But the minute the people in Monrepo complained and made those allegations, no investigation, but here, let's compensate you. Neither have I heard anything about the government attempting any compensation or to even arrange for the burial of Quindam Bacchus. I haven't heard anything of that sort. So I'm not sure what type of double standard and what is this government portraying to the world. What are they showing people that we stand for as a nation? What does Guyana stand for as a nation? It's very sad.
Very sad indeed. And oftentimes they run with this script that even these sort of programs, it's strife and hate and opposition sowing malice. Where these nutcase people come from? Lemon, just throw them off. We don't need any distraction today. It is always, we present the truth, we present facts, we present these things, but it's oftentimes, it's hate. David Hinds is preaching hatred. Benn is preaching hatred. Duncan or Kadaki, it's always hatred for these Nimakarams, as I would say. But we have Dr. David Hinds with us. Dr. Hinds, let's take a quick look at what's happening here. The treatment Robeson Benn got when he was in Monrepo. Here goes. Come on, operator. Dr. Hinds, welcome to the program. Let's begin right away. Your take on how Robeson Benn was actually treated there in Monrepo.
Well, it speaks for itself. Good evening to you and your guest. I think
Attorney Washington.
Washington. Good evening to you. Right, and good evening to your viewing and listening audience. But I think the video speaks for itself. The reception he got there from the people. It was also the reception that the Prime Minister got when he was there yesterday at the prayer service in Golden Grove. I stood through the entire thing because I was there to participate in the prayer service, and he came. And he left with a nickname, I will investigate. Everything the people asked him or told him about, I will investigate. Mr. Prime Minister, the people at Mode got compensated immediately without any investigation. And the people here at Golden Grove have not been compensated. I will investigate.
Go ahead, Dr. Hinds. Are you listening to another device? We will have to investigate.
Oh, yes, I thought, yeah. Yeah, he will have to investigate. So that kind of response is what they're getting. I think sometimes we are a little bit too hard on our own people in the sense that we think that people are not up to what is happening. We think that people are doing nothing. And I always say, people are always doing something. They may not wear it on their sleeves or on their chest, but they're always doing something. And that we sometimes have to be very careful that we give the people doing something. So growth, it's not spontaneous. That moment has been building up and building up. The human spirit doesn't always act recklessly. The human spirit absorbs as much as it can absorb within the context of reason. And then all of a sudden something happens and it bursts. I remember Frederick Douglass always say that when he was a slave, he just decided one day when his master raised his hand to beat him, that he will raise his hand to fight back. And as he did so, the master's whip was left half suspended because he did not expect Douglass, a slave, to fight back. You see? And Douglass said he has been working that out in his mind for a very long time. So therefore, the protests that we are seeing are not random protests. The protest last Tuesday was not ignited by a news report, as they are trying to tell us. Some news reports said that the boy was. That was coming for 2.5 weeks. Those people out there for 2.5 weeks, thousands of them on Sunday, last Sunday, the funeral, and nobody is saying anything to them. Tuesday was bound to follow Sunday and Monday. All right? So it wasn't any news report. It was the fact that the government did nothing for 2 weeks. It was the fact that the police, top brass, did not go to that community and speak to those people. And so, therefore, the protests that we are seeing and the reaction they're getting from the protesters is a revelation for them. Remember, Mark, when we warned during the 5 months that do not award the government to one party because it was a disputed election. Oh, yeah. And then the election was awarded, and nobody came onto the street, and they were laughing. They were saying, look, Ben Shop and David Hinds, they think black people stupid, black people come out on the road. And the was boasting, I want opposition. And you know what? I've been in struggle before. You've been in struggle long before them, and you know that it was only a matter of time. How they get the opposition? They're crying like the babies and running around the place looking for what we call instigators. They're insulting our people to say that our people work by remote control. No, they don't work by remote control. We are not leading those people are leading us.
Absolutely. Well said, Dr. David Hinds here with us, along with attorney at law Shellen Washington. And even Crybaby writes oftentimes disrespecting you, disrespecting us, calling us usual suspect, calling you black pudding man, and all manner of things, saying, oh, persons African descent don't listen to us. And now they are the same people who are saying we are the ones who are instigating these things. Come on, what exactly is happening? I don't know. I've noticed, we are not, again, this is not a forum where we tolerate any form of disrespect, especially towards our guests. So I've noticed a trench crapo come on here calling you black pudding man. I mean, black pudding man is not an insult, because remember now back in the days, this black pudding used to mind lots of people, black pudding lady, a well-respected lady. I rather somebody call me black pudding man, black pudding lady, because black pudding is an honest dollar, unlike some of the money launderers and the drug lords and so forth. Attorney at law, let's bring you in. Sorry, David, go ahead, sir.
No, I was
You're
just
saying-
about to say, Mark, I am not an elitist. I've never been. But the majority of Guyana, 99.99% of Guyana, call me Dr. David Hinds. I know who I am. They know who I am. The crybaby called me David Hinds today when he's complaining about being called an Indianist. I don't pay them no mind.
I was surprised. I was surprised that he actually called you doctor. He actually called you David Hinds. You're a doctor. You earned your PhD. And that's how these little rattlesnake attempt to disrespect us and our leaders and so forth and so on. Let's bring in the attorney.
But the way you answer them is not to match their little street corner nonsense. It's
Exactly.
that you use the forum where people are listening and you answer them within the context. I always know that our president is a dunce. I knew that. And I never called him a dunce because I come from the same place that he came from. And if I didn't get enough licks to tell me go upstairs rather than stay at the bottom of the school and gamble, I had to become a dunce. And I'm always very sympathetic to people who are academically challenged. But since he has declared war,
he's not just academically challenged. He is challenged. End of story. Not just academically challenged. He is challenged.
Yes.
Let's go over to the attorney. We were going to touch on the fact that this guy, who seemed to be a psychiatric patient, is with Robeson, Benn, and suddenly we're hearing that this guy threatened the guy that is challenged, that little boy that is challenged, Irfan. We're hearing that, he threatened the life of the president, he threatened this, and look, this guy's walking, posing up with Robeson, Benn. That's another story. But let's touch on this other situation where we have heard that this policeman, Christophe de Nobrega, he was under close arrest. Then his mother filed an habeas corpus. After 72 hours, they released him. Then the police came back out to say that he's under, open arrest. Attorney, talk to us about this open arrest business.
Mark, as far as I understand, the open arrest term is only applicable to police officers in Guyana. That's not something that a criminal attorney would normally be familiar with because it's only used in the context of where a police officer is being disciplined or being investigated. And as I understand it, this police officer is he's under investigation still because there's no charges meted out against him as yet. There's only recommendations of a charge. So that means that he's still, or based on the police said that he's under open arrest. And an open arrest, as I understand, you still are permitted to perform your duties as directed, and you can still attend parades if you're instructed to do so. But as far as it goes, there's no prohibition from you going out in public and taking part in your usual activities. You're just restricted in terms of your ability to leave the jurisdiction. That's as far as I understand what an open arrest is in Guyana.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you, because they try to give the impression that, he's under arrest, and they're playing around with the psyche of the ordinary folks, but the ordinary folks are way smarter than them, especially that big one that is challenged. He's challenged. Now, attorney, before we get back to Dr. David Hinds, this is what the Police Complaints Authority recommends, that 3 cops be charged in Quindon Bacchus. I think they spelled Quindon incorrectly, Bacchus case. But then again, this is nothing to surprise you. It's a PBP mouthpiece that I got this clip from. Are you surprised that the Police Complaints Authority that is headed by a retired judge, well, that authority, that agency is said to be headed by retired judges. Nobody else can head it. I can't head it, and Dr. Hinds can't head it, or neither can you, unless we are judges. Now, are you surprised that an agency that is equipped to investigate, or ought to be investigating, and have conclude based on the investigation, they make their recommendations of what the individual should be charged with? In this case, the head of the PCA, the Police Complaints Authority, Justice William Ramlal, is saying that he leaves that to the DPP to decide on what charges she should implement against those 3 cops. What is happening there? Break that down for us from a legal standpoint.
The first thing I would say before I get into the other legal aspects of this is that I'm not surprised at Justice William Ramlal's action, because as I understand, his contract has expired. He was appointed under Dr. David Granger, or previous president, and his contract expired. And he sent a letter asking Irfaan Ali, the current president, to renew that contract. And that contract is still pending. That letter was sent, I believe, since October of 2021, and we're in 2022, and he is still pending a renewal of a 3-year contract. And when he took this position, and I saw this letter that he wrote, making recommendations that the 3 police officers be charged, but he's not making any specific recommendation as to what the charges are and to what exactly the 3 police officers should be charged with. I'm not at all surprised, because I feel like he's trying to play it safe, because he's at a position where he needs that contract to be renewed. Because obviously, if he wanted to step down, his contract is up. He could give up the position, and he can step down. He's free to do so. But it appears to me that he wants to continue in that position under the current regime. So he's trying to play it safe. And what I understand is that he has full authority to investigate and make recommendations on the charges that should be meted out against those officers. So he is privy to all the evidence, all the information. We're hearing 2 different stories. As a matter of fact, I've heard 3 different stories as to how Quindon Bacchus was murdered. And all 3 versions sounds a little bit fishy to me, because as far as the report, the postmortem report says that he was shot in the back, I believe, either 6 or 7 times. And if somebody was shot in the back multiple times, it means that person was either trying to flee and they were no threat to that police officer who fired those shots. Therefore, Mr. Ramlal, Justice William Ramlal, has privy to information the public doesn't know. He knows the entire investigation. He knows what happened. He interviewed, or must have interviewed, those officers and interviewed any eyewitnesses. So he has a full extent of knowledge of the involvement of each police officer. So what better person to recommend charges? He would know if murder charges would be appropriate, or whether it should be manslaughter, or whatever it should be. He has full privy to that type of information that he could very well recommend the appropriate charges. But he is taking the high road, and he's saying, well, I'm going to leave this to the DPP. We do know that the DPP has the authority to institute charges against anyone based on the recommendations of whoever, the police or the police complaints authority. They have that authority, they have that power. But yet still, Judge Ramlal, he is privy to this information, and he knows that the public is uneasy. He knows that the family of this young man that was wrongfully killed, they're uneasy. It's unsettling to them, knowing the circumstances surrounding his death, and he's still refusing to take a stand, refusing to come out publicly and said, listen, I'm recommending that these police officers, or at least one of them, be charged with murder, because based on our investigation and based on what we found, here's what we believe. It must be that he saw that there is some sort of wrongdoing, because he's recommending charges, but he's not saying what
he doesn't. He doesn't want to come out to say, because, like you said, he sent a letter to Irfaan Ali sometime October last year, begging that his contract be renewed. He gets paid $1.4 million per month, a duty-free concession, a security, a driver, and other stuff. He got entertainment allowance, gas allowance, and that thing is big. And so he doesn't want to rock the boat at all. And so he is playing it safe. At the end of this investigation, he sent it to the DPP and say, hey, wait a minute. This is what he did, basically nothing. But he's saying to the DPP, you decide on what these charges are. He is not going to do so. Let's head over to Buxton and deal with Dr. David Hinds. Your take on what Justice Ramlal did, sir?
Well, I am not too sure about his remit and what he's empowered to do and what he's not empowered to do. I listen to the attorney, and I'm guided by that. But I think what is very significant is that he's recommended that 3 people be tried. And based on what I have seen confidentially in terms of statements were given to him, this thing is bigger than we even think it is. It now heads to the DPP. Now, listen, if those people were not on the streets for 3 weeks, this development would not occur. Note, last week the president said he spoke to them and they would be ready with it on Monday. Today's Sunday, they're ready with it one day before. If those people were not on the street, there would be no movement. Now it goes to the DPP. Those people need to stay down there on the streets, continue to demand justice for Quindon Bacchus until this thing has come to a logical conclusion. And we must not stop if and when murder those men, or one of them, or all 3 of them, or 2 of them at the murder. It must not stop then. This thing needs a movement to see it to its conclusion. And so therefore, I leave the the technicalities to the lawyers. I'm concerned about the political aspect of it. That 3 of the 3 shooters are recommended for charges, I think is a step forward, and the wheels of justice have begun to roll for those people in Golden Grove, and by extension, the rest of the country. Let's stay on it until this thing comes to a conclusion.
Absolutely. Thank you. We've got to stay on it. We've got to make sure that they focus. And sorry about that. I think that echo coming from Dr. Hinds. We may have to investigate that. But what is troublesome is that the head of the Police Complaints Authority, retired Justice William Ramlal, has the power to make recommendations on what charges ought to be filed. And again, as the attorney stated, this is somewhat suspicious that the head of the Complaints Authority is saying, look, he's not going to do that. The question is, why aren't you going to do that? The Police Complaints Authority has done that in the past. And in the recent past, we saw his recommendations, murder charge instituted against the killer cop of Orange Boston. That charge was since broken down to manslaughter. I believe it was manslaughter, mind you. So he has made recommendations before. The question is, why is he stopping short of making recommendations on either murder charges or manslaughter charges or criminal negligence against those 3 cops? We are now hearing 3 cops. He is pulling himself out of this, which makes me, or gives me, the impression that there is no murder charges that he wants to be instituted. So he's playing safe, thinking that all of us are Paku. Remember when the Police Complaints Authority came into effect in 1989? Well, it officially started in 1990. And based on the Constitution, it gives whomever is the head of the Police Complaints Authority full authority to investigate and make a final recommendation to the DPP. In these circumstances, we are not seeing the head of the PCA doing that. Hence, it becomes questionable. But the only lawyer here is Attorney Washington.
Mark, I'm just a little bit nervous. I know Dr. David Hinds is not too concerned about this aspect of it, but it just makes me a little bit nervous that the public is not privy to the reports. We don't know what's in those reports. And now he's telling the DPP, we're relying on you to make the necessary or institute the necessary charges as you see fit. What if the DPP only recommends manslaughter? Or what if the DPP only recommends some sort of bizarre charge that has nothing to do with murder? Then at that point, what is the public supposed to do? How are they supposed to react? I think now is the time to stay on top of this and to ask questions. Why didn't Justice Ramlal recommend specific charges? He's the first person to review all the evidence. He's a legal mind. He's not a lay person. He understands the law. because he was a judge in Guyana, which means he understands criminal law, he understands factual allegations, and he understands whether or not it rises to the level of murder. So if he believes that one of these police officers actually committed murder, I think it would have been very easy on that level to write it in the report and to disclose it to the public. Because now we have to rely on DPP, and we don't know what the DPP is going to do, what type of charges they're going to recommend, and whether or not they're going to review the entire file before deciding what else or what next to do. Because remember, the DPP still relies on information coming from somewhere else. They're relying from the information coming from the Police Complaint Authority. So now we don't know what's in that report. So
And
we
want to
can't
know.
even say.
It is only fair because it's a constitutional agency. He has that authority to make recommendations, as I have said, but he also has an obligation to the public to reveal what the findings are.
That's right.
Who are those police officers other than Mr. Nobrega, I believe? But also, before we get back to Dr. David Hinds here, that the OPR, which is the Office of Professional Responsibility, they have also done their investigations. And once their investigations is concluded, they send it to the legal advisor, the police legal advisor. So at this point in time, the DPP, they're getting two reports, one from the OPR, which is going to be sent to her by the legal advisor of the police, and also now one coming from an independent or supposedly an independent agency, PCA, the Police Complaints Authority, headed by retired Justice William Ramlal. So she's getting two reports. Now, what is going to happen, as we have seen happen in the past, is she is going to send that report either back to the police or back to William Ramlal at the PCA to say they need more information. And once that is done, it simply means they're not going to be charging with murder, right? That is the game they play. And I rather suspect that this will be.
Mark, that is what I'm nervous about. The back and forth.
We're all nervous about the back and forth. Dr. David Hinds, Associate Professor at ASU, that is Arizona State University, ASU. So just to let that little numbskull who might be watching, because he might not understand what ASU means. He might be thinking something else, but it's the Arizona State University. Dr. Hinds, are you still with us, sir? Okay. Dr. Hinds went off for a minute. We will await his arrival again. Now, let's get back to this Police Complaints Authority and so forth. Is it fair, though, that somebody who's being paid $1.4 million per month or whatever to run away from his responsibility in this manner, so blatant? Attorney?
I don't think it should go that way at all, Mark. I believe Justice Ramlal should do his duty, and he should make the appropriate charges, recommend the appropriate charges, and let the public know. Make the public aware of what your findings are, rather than just say, I recommend. Like I said, we don't know it's going to be murder. We don't know what the charges are going to be. And like you rightfully said, the DPP will have two separate reports, and one of those reports could be conflicting from the other. We don't know. And
we just don't know at all, but they're playing games. And look at what's going to happen. Maybe before the end of this month, we will hear that they have names for new Police Complaints Authority. Irfan Ali, that little dunce, might be upset with the head of the PCA. He might want somebody new because this is a PCA. The head of the PCA has ruled on several occasions against the PPP. They didn't like it. He had to sue for his pension or something like that. He had to sue for other stuff. And he challenged the PPP. So the PPP might be uncomfortable with him and they want to remove him from that position. Hence their reason for not renewing his contract. Watch what's going to happen with his contract. Watch what's going to happen. Let's bring in Dr. David Hinds on this. There is supposed to be a protest tomorrow, the 4th of July, 10 o'clock starting at Buxton Public Road. 10 o'clock tomorrow, Buxton Public Road. The police issued a statement saying that protest is illegal. Watch yourself, guys. It is illegal. Illegal. Lo and behold, not surprisingly, the PPP comes out now to say they're going to be having an outreach tomorrow, same place, almost same location, same time, and everything. Dr. David Hinds, talk to us a little bit about this protest and talk to us a little bit about these instigators who are heading into Buxton tomorrow. We're told that it's canceled, but nothing official. Talk to us first about the protest. The objective, please, sir.
Yeah, yes, thanks. Let me just correct, perhaps I didn't express myself properly. I do not think that the fact that the Mr. Ramlal, Justice Ramlal, is not recommended charges, that is not important. I think it's very important. I was just saying it's not my area of competence, and I was deferring to the attorney, and
Yes,
that
sir.
I was looking at the political aspect of it, but I do think it's extremely important. I think that there are political reasons for him not recommending. I think I would ask the attorney and other attorneys, is there a case here for judicial review of the Justice Ramlal not carrying out his legal responsibilities, his constitutional responsibilities? But like I said, it's not my area of competence, and whenever I'm in the company of legal minds, I prefer to defer to them and do the political aspect. But I do think it's important. Yeah, the day of protest is important.
Since you have said that and mentioned the possibility of legal review, let's just have the attorney get a quick 2 minutes on that before we get back to the protest.
Sure.
Anything to add, please?
I think most positions that are signed under the Constitution, the actions of that person is reviewable legally. I wouldn't call myself the expert as to the statute, which determines the actions of the head of the police complaint authority. But as far as I know, this is tripe law that any position that was assigned under the Constitution, the actions of that party is reviewable. But in this case, like I said, whether or not Justice Ramlal has a discretion, because he may very well have a discretion on whether or not he just recommend or refuses to recommend and just send the file to DPP. But like I said, I do not know. I'm not 100% sure that he has a discretion. But if he do have a discretion, then he's free to exercise that discretion and refuse to recommend specific charges. And that would have that's something that somebody who is practicing constitutional law, well, I know that there are no person in Guyana who's just specifically specialized in constitutional law, but any attorney who specializes in the Constitution in Guyana might be able to look at that provision in the Constitution and so whether or not he had a discretion and he rightfully exercised it, or whether or not he is required to act and recommend and then forward the file to DPP.
I guess when that act came in,
and that's where my
I'm not the legal guy here, our lawyer, and I'm guided by what she says. But in 89, when this was actually came into fruition, that agency was created, that Constitution agency was created. It was for the purpose of the agency to be independent on police killings and police wrongdoings and so forth, to investigate. That is why it's an independent body. It's a constitutional body. That head of the agency always has been a former judge. That is why they have a former judge there, so that they can get investigators to investigate these matters. And the act came into existence as so that the head of the PCA should investigate. He has all the powers to investigate. And it says, I believe somewhere in chapter 1702 in the Police Complaints Authority Act, that the end result of that that investigation is to make recommendations. That's his constitutional duty, to make recommendations, not to investigate and say, I have no recommendations to make. I am going to send that package. I'm going to send that file to the DPP so that the DPP can decide on what charges to be filed. That to me is questionable. Hence, when Dr. Hinds talked about judicial review, there is sufficient cause for that. But I'm not the lawyer here.
Like we said,
Yeah,
Mark,
and what I'm sorry,
the only issue.
attorney, before you go, because you may be able to help us here with the question that I'm raising. If the DPP's power is to recommend charges to the police, and the Police Complaints Authority also has that power to recommend charges, is there here a collision between the powers of the two agencies?
Oh no.
Yes, go ahead.
The DPP does not. Did you say DPP recommending charges, or did you say the police? Which one?
The police, no, the DPP. The DPP.
DPP. Oh no, DPP doesn't recommend charges. DPP has the authority to institute charges.
To institute charges, right?
So DPP doesn't recommend unless it's something the police sent to the DPP for advice as to whether or not they should charge a person on the lower level. But DPP institute charges. When it comes to the complaint, the Police Complaint Commission, this is as it relates only to police officers. They only investigate misconduct on the part of police officers. And what Mark is saying, which I 100% agree, is that the head of the Complaint Commission, he has the right, he has the statutory power to investigate and recommend charges against any police officer. But what I think that's going to be the issue here, even if somebody tries to review Judge Ramlal's conduct or whatever he did, he's going to say, well, I followed the statute, which is to investigate and recommend. I did recommend charges. But what he stopped short of is recommending specific charges. And that's what's reviewable. That's what we're trying to figure out, whether or not that stopping short of saying, I recommend murder 1 or murder 2 or whatever it is reviewable. And that's a question which I don't have the answer personally. And I think I don't have the answer personally because I haven't practiced criminal law in Guyana for a while. And this is not just criminal law, mind you. This is a little bit outside the realms of criminal law because it involves a statute that only deals with the conduct of police officers in Guyana.
Well said. And we are yet to see that because maybe one of the journalists in Guyana should ask, since he said that he has made his recommendations, he will forward that file to the DPP. We'd like to know specifically what are some of the charges he saw based on his investigations. Did he see anything there to do with murder? Did he see anything there to do with manslaughter or criminal recklessness on the part? What are the 3 main charges that he has observed? That's all. I'd like to know that. But, Dr. Hinds.
Mark, I think a very important aspect of his report that I would be interested in is he must have access to statements from these 3 people that he's recommended. Who gave the order? Who gave the order? From a political standpoint, who gave the order for this operation? Was there a commander who gave the order? Who's that commander? So I think this report by Mr. Ramlal got a lot of teeth, right? And it would be interesting if the journalists can get a peep into that full report. I think a lot of explosive stuff could be in that report. Because here you go. You see, because we started 1 shooter, now we have 3 shooters. All right. Now we are saying that there were 3 shooters.
Because shots obviously would have fired. 6 shots in his back. That is not, we are not the ones who are saying it. The attorney mentioned earlier. The autopsy report said that he was shot maybe 5 or 6 times in his back. Now, there could have been more than 1 shooters. More than 1 shooter, right? It could have been. And that is where you're heading to in terms of Ramlal's investigations, right? That would have unearthed these things.
I think one of the questions Dr. David Hinds was asking is, who authorized or who requested that an investigation be conducted into the actions of the police officer regarding the killing of this young man. So I
No, no,
think
no, 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 no. No, I was asking who gave the orders to these policemen to shoot that guy? Did they do it on their own?
okay, okay.
Or was there some superior in the police force who gave that order?
You know, one of the things that I'm interested in is situations like that. There's no one on the ground specifically to give that order to shoot right.
No.
These reckless guys are going to do. I'm more interested in what sort of what was it? Some sort of investigation that they were carrying out. Who gave the order for them to go on that ground in that so-called investigation? There was no investigations.
There wasn't. And that's the thing. We're getting very conflicting report because I saw the interview with the mother, and the mother is giving 3 different stories. One of it, she's saying the police are claiming they had some sort of sting investigation. The other one, she's saying that they're claiming her son was attempting to sell an illegal firearm to a police officer. And then the third side of the story I'm hearing is that her son had a relationship with the police officer's girlfriend, and they met at James Bond's bar in Melanie. So I'm not sure what aspect of the situation to believe, but either way, regardless of which is correct, he should not have been shot 6 or 7 times in the back. That is a little bit extreme.
And mind you, attorney, according to the autopsy report, not Dr. Hinds, not you, Attorney Shellon, or anybody else, according to the autopsy report, 5 or 6 times in the back and 1 close range. 1 at close range. Questionable.
Mark,
Yes,
here is why I'm interested in who gave the order. This was a sting operation. I don't think little police boys decide we're going to go on a sting operation though. Because the objective here is not just
allegedly a sting operation.
Allegedly. Exactly.
But here is the story. Here is the story. We want justice for Clinton Back, but we also want structural changes in the police force. Are there commanders who are operating on their own that can sign off on this operation? Go back to the young men who were following Aubrey Norton. They said they were following instructions. The commissioner says he didn't give any order. The divisional commander say he didn't give any order. The Home Affairs minister say he didn't give any order. So who gave these 2 policemen the orders? So I'm saying that there are structural things that we have to be concerned about. And that is why I would be interested in reading that report by Mr. Ramlad, because those guys, I am saying from what I know of how the police operate, they didn't do that on their own. I think there is a superior who gave. Yeah.
The thing is, Dr. Hinds, unless we could fully understand the origin of the issue, we can't even say that there's structural changes that needs to take place, because we're getting 3 different stories. So which is it? Was there any issue between the police officer and the deceased? I mean, we're not sure. It's too many conflicting stories. So until we could understand what actually happened, we don't know whether these officers were acting independently, whether it was a vendetta and the police officer just wanted to get revenge for whatever this. We don't know. So,
well, if the police officer wanted to get revenge, he would have acted alone. The police officer, whoever fired those shots, they did so as agents of the state. So, if you had a story with the man of James Bond, that story finished there. Once you put on that uniform or badge or whatever, you're using the gun that is owned by the state. This now is no longer an individual story. This is a story of the police force. The police force as a coercive arm of the state against the citizen. And I'm continuing to say, even what I know of how the police force operates in Guyana, they take political instructions. And I'm saying here, even without seeing that, I gave the example just now of the 2 policemen following the lead of the opposition. The commissioner says Natty. The divisional commander says Natty. The Minister of Affairs says Natty. Who gave those instructions? Somebody must have given those instructions. And I'm putting my neck out here to say here tonight that somebody must have given instructions for that so-called sting operation and kill that young man. They were acting as agents of the state. And if you're acting as agents of the state, you don't act recklessly. Every 2x4 policeman or policewoman knows that. So there must be a hidden hand behind. And legal things are important. As a political person, I want to know the political ramifications. That's why I'm ceding the legal thing to you, and I'm not sticking my neck out there. You're the expert there. For me, I'm talking about the political thing. Who gave that political instruction to kill a woman's son? That is what I'm interested in.
The problem would be, Dr. Hinds, is there's something behind every killing that the question that is asked every time somebody is killed. Motive. So if you're saying it might have been motivated politically, what would have been the political motive? Because if you're thinking,
I can tell you the political motive here tonight, sister. The political motive is the motive that has killed over 1,000 young black men in Guyana. It's to drive fear into the black community. It's to criminalize our young men. That's the political motive. We have a lot of young men who were in the army. They might have been there for 3-4 years, 25 years old. They're out of the army now. And there seems to be a policy on the part of the government to criminalize these young men. That incident in Bacchus is not isolated. It happened in Buxton. The young man got away because the place was crowded. They weren't able to. So I know what I'm talking about here.
Dr. Hinds,
Yes.
I'm not disagreeing with your reasoning, because we all do know the reasoning. They exist. A lot of these cops feel empowered. These corrupt cops feel empowered under the PPP. And they feel that they can go out and execute, murder people without any sort of justice coming their way, or the family getting any form of justice. And sometimes they don't necessarily have to get the order. They feel that they will get the protection from the political folks in the police force, right? And in this case, the guy who is a part of a special branch, what sort of sting operation that you would have, or special branch headed by that individual? Mind you, I think Watts is now head of special branch. And is it the same Watts that was out there ordering the police to shoot tear gas, pellet bullets, and so forth? Watts is head of special branch. This guy works there at special branch with Watts. Now, why would they send special branch operatives on a sting operation with somebody with a little small gun like this? That's my concern.
Exactly.
And a preponderance of evidence is pointing in the direction that this was a personal shooting.
That's what I'm saying.
It was premeditated.
You see, I agree with Mark. I share the same sentiments as Mark, because I'm thinking, what could have been the motive? How could they have had a sting operation that caused a young man to be shot in the back 5 or 6 times? That had to have been premeditated murder. And I think I agree 100% with Mark, with his position that he's taking on this. I don't think this was something that was authorized. I don't think those police officers went there with orders to run any sting operation. I think they went under the guise that they're running a sting operation with the simple motive and intent of murdering this young man. I think they had motive. What the motive was, I just don't know. But I think it was personal. To shoot somebody at close range and multiple times in the back, that has to be personal. If you look at the news a lot and you see that happening in this country, in the United States, most of the times those police officers will tell you it was motivated by racism. When they shoot a person multiple times in the back, it's motivated by some sort of hatred to shoot somebody. He was already dead, I think, by the time he got the second or the third.
But the other thing I mentioned there, and it was saddened to see, sorry, Dr. Hinds, I know you have something else to say, but it was saddened to see that this officer Watts, who I know personally, we went to school together, right? Not IFLAT University. We went to small school together. Little guy, right? He's so powerful right now with a gun in his hand. He is notorious. He has been at this for a while. He shot James, well, he headed a team of guys who shot protesters, peaceful protesters. James Bond was shot in his back. Former head of the Guyana Defense Force was shot as well. Brigadier Collins was shot. Other people were shot. Ladies, old people were shot. Watts headed that operation. His name has been calling for a while. So I wouldn't be surprised if his name has been calling in this investigation. I wouldn't be surprised if his name has been calling that he gave the order. Again, I'm not saying that that's the case, but I wouldn't be surprised if his name has been called in this investigation that he gave the order to shoot during this sting operation, this alleged stinger. I don't know. But all of this, again, agreeing with Dr. Hinds also, that we have to know the truth, because Watts is notorious when it comes to harming people. His name has been calling for a while now. And not only just in Linden. You know, I saw recently, I don't know if, David, Dr. Hinds, do you recognize this policeman on the bridge there in Linden?
Yes, I do. I was there. I
Yeah.
spoke to him several times that day.
In fact, I took this photograph. We were right there on the bridge. That's the current acting commissioner of police, Hicken, on the bridge in Linden. Further, I say not, but let's continue. Attorney, you wanted to add something else before we go to the protest tomorrow?
I mean, I just looking at some of the comments that the people are making. A lot of people seem to believe it was premeditated murder. So I'm leaning more to that side, that this was something that was orchestrated, because based on the mother's interview, she said there was a young man who kept coming, and that seemed to be the person who was trying to lure the victim to the place where he would have eventually been killed. In her interview, that she said a young man kept coming and looking for her son repeatedly. And then eventually he got him and he led him somewhere. So to me, that looks like he was trying to lead him to his death. So I don't know, but it just appears, it's apparent based on all the information that I've seen so far, based on the postmortem report, seems to have been premeditated murder. I will stick to that until I find out otherwise.
But Dr. Hinds,
I'm not saying it was not premeditated. Where we seem to have a disagreement is premeditated at what level? You seem to think it was premeditated among two young men who were at a story over a girl. And I'm saying it was premeditated at the level of policy in the police force. That's where our difference is.
Policy and pompousness on the part of police.
Of the police force, we've seen it 1,000 times in Guyana.
1,000 times.
1,000 times in Guyana.
Dr. Hinds, don't forget also the most recent one. They had another with Headley. Headley was shot and killed by a police. Nothing came out of that. Or in Buxton, a group of, special police operatives went in, barged into the man's house, murdered him in front of his wife. Nobody knew who gave the order for that operation. To this day, nobody knew. These guys never know. They never knew who gave the authorization for policemen to follow Aubrey Norton, the leader of the opposition. They don't know who gave the authorization for these policemen to murder Mr. Bacchus. They don't know who gave the authorization for those policemen who went on that sting operation to murder Oren Buxton. They never know any single thing. And that is troubling. And I guess that is what Dr. Hinds is talking about too. The political connection in these murders, where these political operatives in the police force feel empowered by the goons in the PPP to go out and murder mainly young black men with impunity.
And I think that's the point. That's the point Mark made earlier, that the corrupt police officers feel empowered to act based on which regime that they're under. It's just like in the United States, a lot of people feel more empowered to be racist openly based on who's in power. And I think it's the same thing. It goes for Guyana. The corrupt officers feel more emboldened, like I'm free to do this because of who is in power, and that there's going to be no repercussions, or no, I'm not going to be reprimanded for my actions.
Absolutely. Well said. And this afternoon, we also heard a policeman allegedly shot another guy. Police shooting. It seems as though some of these policemen are reckless, trigger happy, just pull out their trigger while, just like that. I'm sure you guys heard of this story this afternoon at the Linden Bus Park. It's I don't know. Dr. Hinds, let's get now to this protest tomorrow. Talk to us about this protest, please.
The protest is on, despite the police statement. We are not holding a march. We're not holding a public meeting with loudhailers and so on. If you're holding a march or you're holding a public meeting with public address system, you have to apply for permission with 72 hours before the event, and the police has to say no or not. We are not holding that. We are holding a protest. At the district corner, we held about 4 of those last year. The police were there. They kept order and so on, and we were inviting them to come tomorrow to keep order at the protest. We don't need police permission for a protest that does not involve a march or a public meeting with a noisy instrument. You can, whenever you hold in a public meeting, once it doesn't have a noisy instrument, you don't have to ask the police permission, right? So
but you know what they would say? The noisy instrument is people like David Hinds.
Well, that's and but so the march is on tomorrow. The march is on. The protest is on tomorrow at 10 o'clock. We understand that the PPP is holding some event in Buxton at the ball ground. That's their business. I don't wish to give it any publicity. That's their business. We are carrying out our business at the Buxton Public Road. Please be there. We start at 10 o'clock. Please spread the word. And so the march is on. The march is on, and we're not violating any law. We're not holding a public meeting with a noisy instrument. We are not holding a march. And so it is well within our right to do what. And we have done that at the Buxton Public Road several times before in the last year. So come out tomorrow for that march at 10 o'clock. It was planned long before the PPP's story that they're holding in Buxton. They're free. They're the government. You're coming to Buxton. That's your business. I'm not interested in that. We should not be interested in that. We are interested in our protest action tomorrow at the Buxton Public Road.
Well said. It's suspicious, though, that they don't want you guys to protest tomorrow, but yet they rush hastily to put together this trash. For 20-odd years, they've ignored the people of Buxton and the extension, the entire Guyana, with their corruption and their racism and all manner of things. And what makes them think that people are going to believe that they're genuinely going into Buxton tomorrow to talk about development? Something is fishy about this. I hope these instigators do not go into Buxton. They are.
Mark, let me say this. Yeah?
Go ahead,
Let me say this. The fact that they are running around, they were in Cove and John 2 days ago. They're now going into Buxton. The fact that they're doing that is the power of protest. Had there not been a protest for this young man's murder, this government would not have been busy running around the place like headless chickens, trying to pretend that they're a legitimate government. They are not. So on the one hand, we have brought them out from the shadows into the open, and we must take credit for that. Now that they've decided to go into the communities, the people in the community should deal with them. They should decide whether they're going to go, and if they go, what they're going to say, and so on. That's not my business.
I like that. I like that. I like that, Dr. Hinds. It's not your business. It's not my business how the people are going to respond to them. But it's none of our business, mind you.
What we have done is that we have brought them out of this pretense that, black people are under control. They're not saying anything. Benn and David Hinds, every night they're urging them and inciting, and they're doing nothing. They're doing nothing. These chaps, all they have is a lot of mouth, and so on and so forth. And stigmatize our people as people who don't have reason and who don't have intelligence.
Dr. Hinds.
The actions of our people have brought them out.
Dr. Hinds, I'm going to stay in my corner and watch the protest tomorrow. We will carry it live right here on 107.1 FM. I don't know how the people are going to react to these people going into their communities now. These people are not going in there with any sort of genuine approach. No, Will they use the Jack Davis approach on these people tomorrow? I don't know. What is the Jack Davis approach? Let's remind them.
Showing a little $5 people and so on and things. If black people think that's what they're worth, then but I know that black people think they're not worth a little $10,000, $20,000.
Say it again, you're illegal. Free up the country, you're undemocratic. They're gonna face a different situation right across the country.
Instance, when they come to the communities, whether it is in Berbice or Essecubo and Linden or in South Georgetown or Agricola or in Ennore or Port Morant, the people of Guyana should treat them as illegal. I said they should walk behind them, chase them out of your communities, because it means they've been squatting in power.
Wow.
Attorney, you heard that. You heard that from Jack.
Wow.
Why are you saying wow? Are you surprised that he was urging people to chase them out? Chase them out?
But that is something else. And there, Dr. Granger is being very conservative. What the people choose to do, it's not my business. And there you have a former
Dr. David Hinds. There are two Davids. One slay Goliath and the other one prays. Right, my friend, Dr. David Hinds. But go ahead, attorney.
I think the people have crafted an approach, not the Jack Day approach. The people have crafted approaches. If they want to come, they come, and they give them the mark, not Mark Benn shop. They give them the Mark Phillips treatment, which is you bombard them with intelligent questions. So, yes. And all they can do is to retreat into, I don't know, I will investigate. It is the same treatment that they gave the Home Affairs Minister. So give them, the people seem to have hit on their own model. The Mark Phillips treatment, the Robeson Benn treatment. As I said, I don't tell communities what to do. Communities, I believe that our communities are intelligent people. Both African communities and Indian communities, Amerindian communities. I know Indian people are intelligent because even at Monrepo, while they were trying to push that race thing, there were Indian people who were saying, kill the people child, and if they've been charged the man for murder, this not being what happened. So they're not fooling anybody. They may think they're not even fooling their own supporters, much more the people who are not their supporters. So when they go into these communities, the people will decide what is the best way to deal with them. I don't think that is my business. But my business tomorrow.
Well, for me, Dr. Hinds, I will say straight up that the people shouldn't waste their time in listening to these vagabonds. The people shouldn't, because even if you ask them intelligent questions, they wouldn't be intelligent responses from them. They don't know what to say to the people. They're basically going in there to paku the people. And the people of Buxton and the surrounding areas shouldn't waste their time with these people to waste an hour, 2 hours asking questions and these sort of things. They're not going to get the sort of responses. Don't waste the time with these people, man. Turn your back on them, walk away from them, beat drums, drum them out with noise. Drum them out, man. Don't waste the time with them, Dr. Hinds. That is my position.
Come to the protest at the Milwaukee instead of going to them. If you're taking Mark's suggestion, we have a protest, come to the protest at the bottom.
I think they should attend the protest and see what the people are saying, what the cries of the people are, and try to work on fixing the issues that the people are experiencing. I think the people of Buxton and the Guyanese people who are protesting, I think they're doing a great job at bringing to the forefront the issue right now that is affecting them, which is the illegal murdering of Quinton Bacchus. So I think I commend them for taking this stance, because if it wasn't for their actions, nothing would have been done. So I commend them and I encourage them to continue to fight for justice, for, anything that they see that is not right. I think they're doing an absolutely wonderful job and I commend those people.
I commend them too. And these are the people who are going out there to cry and to ensure that they expose the level of corruption and racism and discrimination and extrajudicial killing. The other set of people, that is, these folks are going in there as instigators. They're not going in there on good faith at all. They are instigators. Tell me, what can Kwame McCoy talk to the people of Buxton about development and so forth and so on? What can he talk to these people about developments? Come on, give me a break. Let the people know.
You see, the thing is, Mark, the cry of the people is not regarding development at this moment. When they're talking about that, address it at that forum. But right now, what is pressing to the people is justice. They want to see justice. So why don't they go and discuss that with the people? I think that would, the people feel more satisfied that they're actually addressing their concerns. But development is not, that's farthest from their mind right now when a young man was illegally murdered.
Absolutely. Murdered. That's it, right? But at the end of the day, what about the people who have their goods and their products damaged as a result of recklessness by members of the Guyana police force? What about not addressing, let them address the compensation of these individuals? Seek justice first. Don't ignore the cry for justice and go into the goddamn village to talk about, what is it? Nobody wants to hear that crap right now. Look, let's take a quick break, and I want to return with our closing remarks. It's Sunday. And I know tomorrow is a busy day for Dr. David Hinds and others on the ground. Folks, go out and support these. You're not supporting David. You're not supporting Kadaki. This is a justifiable cause of individuals who have been oppressed, who are being oppressed by this illegitimate regime. A regime that is in office under questionable circumstances, and they are the ones who are running away from the elections petitions. They're the ones, something they have to hide. We'll take a quick break so you can learn a little more about this attorney. And if you have any problems in the U.S., particularly in Brooklyn, Queens, wherever you are, you can get in contact with her.
So this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Attorney at law, thank you again for your time. I know it's Sunday evening, but I just asked you, we have covered basically a lot of areas, and we hope that it would have been sufficient information for members of the viewing and listening audience. Your closing remarks, ma'am, please.
Again, Mark, it's always a privilege to be here, and I thank you for having me on your show. Thanks to all of your listeners who were here and they paid attention and probably gained some insight into what is happening in Guyana. I'm grateful for being here again, and thanks to all those of you who listen to Mark regularly and you call the office and you use the services at my office. Again, as Mark said, if you need representation here in Brooklyn, my office is in Brooklyn. Give me a call, give the office a call, and we'll address your issue. I'm also on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. So you can follow me on Facebook at Shellen Washington. You search me up and you'll be able to follow me on Facebook or on Instagram or on Twitter. All right. Thank you guys for listening in tonight. And I hope that you guys are going to continue, the people in Buxton, continue the good works and continue to fight for justice for the oppressed and the underprivileged in Guyana. I will continue to always voice my opinion and in support of those who are trying to have justice prevail for the people of Guyana.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for your legal advice, and thank you so much for everything that you have to offer to our audience here on 107.1 FM. Dr. David Hinds, over to you. Your closing remarks, please.
Yeah, and thank you again, Mark, for inviting me, and thanks to Attorney Washington for being part of this panel. I think we need more and more voices like hers, younger people professionals, because this struggle is a struggle for all of us. And often our struggle for justice suffers when it is left only to those who are directly impacted to fight on their own. And so those of us who have been privileged to read some books and go to some universities and acquire some professional skills that give back to the community. And so I want to salute Attorney Washington for joining that that aspect of the struggle in giving back to the community. We, she, you, I, we would not be where we are today without the struggles of the ordinary people. Those people, even without saying anything to us, you know, they cross us over the streets when we were little boys and girls going to school to make sure that we are not knocked down. If they see us lining, they chase us into schools. Go and get your education. They were the choir masters when we were, and choir mistresses when we were at churches. They were the ones who were the maypole and doing all the things that helped to develop us into the fine men and women, quote unquote, that we have become. And so we are where we are because of them. And when they're under attack by the state or by others, it is important for us to come to their protection and their defense. And I'm so happy that a young woman, a young professional has decided to do that. Thank you so much. And tomorrow, Buxton, Middlewalk, Public Road, come and join us there as we raise our voices again and again. You know, those of you who are spiritually inclined will know that song, "The Lion of Judah shall break every chain," again and again. They're trying to chain us again. The Lion of Judah is in our hearts, and we shall break every chain again and again. Come, let's break a few links tomorrow at the Buxton, Middlewalk, Public Road.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hinds. And I just want to say that, however, whatever this can purchase in terms of water, I would personally like to donate 10,000 Guyana dollars for that purpose, water for the protesters. That's my contribution, sir. I'll get in touch with you as to how you can get that 10,000. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I will ensure that you get. I will ensure that you get the 10,000. So please don't send Mark Phillips to investigate with the 10,000 there. We want the 10,000. Dr. Hinds, we appreciate what you guys do. I hope that tomorrow's protest to discuss what is happening throughout the country, especially in communities such as Buxton, I hope that all of our opposition members of parliament will find time to go out there to Buxton tomorrow. I hope that they will find time to go out. You don't have to scratch your head, Dr. Hinds. You don't have to scratch your head. You don't have to scratch your head.
You're in.
Like that.
They will be there, I hope.
We all hope. Shalom, thank you. David, thank you so much. And to all of our listeners, thank you all. Continue.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Hinds. Thank you, Mark, again.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in this evening. We'll be back tomorrow, same place, same time. That's tomorrow evening, 9 o'clock. It's a holiday in Guyana. It's a holiday in the U.S. as well. Be safe. And those of you who are going out to protest tomorrow, be safe as well. Watch out for the, the agents provocateur. Watch out for them. Watch out for those people. Watch out for them. They basically go and they join protest in order to you know what? In order to stir up problems. Watch out for those agent provocateurs. We know some of them. We know who they are. All right? So good luck tomorrow at that protest, guys. We will carry it live right here on 107.1 FM. All right. Until tomorrow, same place, maybe early o'clock in the morning. We don't know as yet, but we will be carrying it live. And I hope good sense will prevail on these instigators, these political instigators, right? These instigators will stay away from Buxton tomorrow because there's no purpose. There's no real purpose for them going into Buxton. For what? I don't know. But anyways, we're out of here until later. God bless you all, and God bless that beautiful, beautiful country. So long.
One day me been a bamboo down, and me see Tyra lay down there, and me ask see Tyra what she do there. See Tyra ice up she penny good wine like a Buxton gold. See Tyra move and day, oh see Tyra move and day. See Tyra move and day, oh see Tyra move and day.
Sunday morning I was passing, and me see Tyra lay down there, and me ask see Tyra what she do there. See Tyra ice up she made the good wine like a Buxton gold. See Tyra move and day, oh see Tyra move and day. See Tyra move and day, oh see Tyra move and day. Shake, 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 Tyra, shake, 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 Tyra, shake, 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 Tyra, oh.
One day me been a wakana, and me see Tyra pon the down, and me ask see Tyra what she do there. See Tyra ice up she petticoat wine like a Buxton gold. See Tyra move and day, oh see Tyra move and day. See Tyra move and day, oh see Tyra move and day.
One day me been a walker now, and me see